идет и когда сюда вперед. Героем был отогнут, героический разбойник, навязан войной, создали угрозу для нашей страны. И потеряли временно, враг подвосился. Очутился. И вот невероятно. Враг рассчитывал на то, что постепенно Жильдар, наша армия будет рассеяна. Наша страна будет поставлена на колени. Но враг весь как-то просыпался. Несмотря на временный неуспех, наша армия и наш флот.
With his power firmly established, Irka Giga sought to strengthen his control over the great Imperium. To secure absolute loyalty, he made a fateful decision. Anyone deemed unfaithful to his rule or sympathetic to opposing ideologies would be forcibly removed. Among those targeted was King of Goons, a known critic of Irka Giga's policies. For his defiance, he was dragged from his home by armed guards, accused of treason, and executed before being exiled from the great Imperium. His removal was a chilling message to all who might oppose Irka Giga's authority. These purges extended across the Imperium. Irka Giga systematically removed any who questioned his rule, replacing them with unwavering supporters. Positions of power, governors, generals, and advisors were filled exclusively with those loyal to his vision. The exiles, stripped of their homes and livelihoods, fled to the western Coopage in search of safety. Pixelized Chicken, though uneasy with the growing authoritarianism of Irka Giga's regime, offered them shelter, balancing humanitarian concerns with the alliance between their nations. Though Pixelized Chicken had long stood beside Irka Giga as an ally, the Purge shook his confidence. The influx of exiles brought stories of oppression and fear, making him question the stability of their partnership. Yet, despite his unease, he chose to maintain his alliance with Irka Giga, for now. While Pixelized Chicken grappled with his doubts, his focus remained on the greater threat, Arcsine. Despite their ideological differences, he believed that unity with Irka Giga was necessary to counter the growing influence of Arcsine's mountain stronghold. With his inner circle purged of dissonant and his loyalists firmly in control, Irka Giga's vision for the great Imperium grew more absolute. But his actions cast a long shadow, fracturing relationships and sowing seeds of discord beyond his borders. After conflict and tension, the mainland entered a period of peace. Nations turned inward, focusing on building their infrastructure and extracting resources to strengthen their economies. For a time, the ambitions of the leaders were directed toward creation rather than destruction. Amidst this age of progress, a groundbreaking invention was made in the Great Imperium. An industrious worker developed the first ever cobblestone generator, revolutionizing the way materials were gathered. What had once been a laborious process became effortless, and the Great Imperium was quick to act. Recognizing the potential of this innovation, Irka Giga promoted the inventor and ordered the widespread adoption of cobblestone generators. Soon, the Great Imperium became a hub of production, exporting cobblestone to foreign nations at remarkably low prices. This newfound efficiency brought immense wealth to the Great Imperium. By selling cobblestone abroad at competitive rates, the nation established itself as a dominant economic power. With its riches, the Imperium embarked on ambitious infrastructure projects, using cobblestone as the cornerstone of its expansion. The western Coopage, unwilling to fall behind, developed their own cobblestone generators. These became integral to their infrastructure, allowing their settlements to grow and flourish alongside the Great Imperium. Not all nations embraced the innovation. The Avalon Kingdom, valuing tradition and craftsmanship, rejected cobblestone generators outright. Instead, they focused on constructing with traditional building blocks, preserving their cultural identity even as others industrialized. But with the widespread adoption of cobblestone generators, the value of cobblestone quickly declined. What had been a key driver of economic power became commonplace, forcing nations to adapt their strategies. Undeterred by the devaluation of Cobblestone, the great Imperium used its wealth to invest in its military and infrastructure. By hiring foreign builders, they expanded their cities and fortified their borders, ensuring their dominance on the mainland. This era of peace also brought about a new system of industrialization. Workers gathered raw materials, traded them for emeralds, and used those emeralds to acquire the equipment and resources their states needed. This method allowed the established nations of the mainland to maintain significant advantage over newer, developing settlements. While this new system elevated the mainland's established powers, it also widened the gap between them and emerging nations. The peace of this era was not without its challenges, and the innovations that brought prosperity to some would become a barrier to others. For now, the mainland thrived, its nations pushing the boundaries of industry and progress. But peace is a fragile thing, and beneath the surface, the seeds of future conflicts were quietly taking roots. In the shadow of the great Imperium's might and growing influence of the Western Coupage, a new nation emerged on a precarious strip of unclaimed land. This nation, known as Western Medici, was born out of necessity, but quickly became a spark in the ever-growing tensions of the mainland. Western Medici's geography placed it at a severe disadvantage. Surrounded by far more advanced nations, its leaders chose not to compete in infrastructure or industry. Instead, they focused solely on resource extraction, trading raw materials to sustain their fledgling nation. From the start, Western Medici faced pressure from its powerful neighbors. The great Imperium, seeking to expand its influence, began oppressing and subjugating Medici's people, exploiting their vulnerability for its own gain. Medici's leaders, though outmatched, resisted fiercely. Facing the relentless pressure from the great Imperium, Western Medici sought refuge in diplomacy, forging a close bond with the Western Coupage. The two nations, united by shared struggles, grew closer. But this budding alliance only deepened the divide with the great Imperium. To Ikagirga, this growing relationship was a direct threat. The idea of an alliance between Western Medici and the Western Coupage filled the great Imperium's leadership with fear. Such a coalition would disrupt the balance of power in the mainland, challenging the Imperium's dominance. Though Western Medici lacked the infrastructure of its neighbors, its resource wealth made it valuable. The Western Coupage provided support and protection, strengthening their ties. Together, they represented a counterweight to the great Imperium's hegemony. The stage was set for another clash of ideals. The great Imperium sought control, while Western Medici and Western Coupage symbolized defiance. Tension simmered as both sides prepared for what felt like an inevitable confrontation. As the mainland's nations solidified their power, their ambitions turned northward. The northern mainland, vast and unclaimed, represented untapped resources and strategic opportunities. For the great Imperium, it was a chance to maintain their economic and military advantage over the Western Coupage. For the Western Coupage, it was an opportunity to challenge the Imperium's dominance. Western Medici, trapped between its powerful neighbors, saw the northern mainland as its only hope for expansion. But with two giants looming over them, their ambitions seemed all but impossible. Both the great Imperium and the Western Coupage sent explorers north, eager to map the land and identify its resources. Among their discoveries was a rich iron mine nestled in the heart of the northern mainland, a prize too valuable to ignore. The iron mine became the flashpoint of their rivalry. Troops from both nations were dispatched to secure it, each determined to claim it for their own. The northern mainland, once untouched, became the stage for a new struggle for dominance. The great Imperium, unwilling to compromise, took a decisive step. Their troops forcibly seized the iron mine from the Western Coupage, asserting their control through sheer strength. The Western Coupage, outmatched and unwilling to escalate the conflict, yielded the iron mine to the great Imperium. The decision, though pragmatic, was a bitter one, a stark reminder of the Imperium's growing power. With the iron mine firmly under their control, the great Imperium bolstered its economy and military, further solidifying its dominance in the region. For the Western Coupage, retreating from the mine was a strategic decision, a calculated step to avoid unnecessary conflict. But the tensions it sparked would not fade so easily. The struggle for the northern mainland was far from over. While no battles were fought, the escalating competition between the great Imperium and the Western Coupage drew the mainland closer to a tipping point. Their ambitions cast a long shadow, shaping the future of every nation in their wake. The mainland was fractured. The great Imperium's ambition for territory grew larger, consuming its every move. It wasn't a question of if war would come, but when.
Thanks for watching. If you want to join the server, the Discord is in the description. If you want to support me, join the Patreon. And stay tuned for the next video, the Avalon Coast War. Thanks.
Ты слезу утираешь. Как я люблю глубину твоих ласковых глаз, как я хочу к ним прижаться теперь губами. Темная ночь разделяет любимая нас, и тревожная черная степь